All right, today we are jumping headfirst into one of the wildest, most intense novels you'll ever read. Emily Bronte's Gothic masterpiece, Wuthering Heights. Seriously, this thing is a powerhouse of obsessive love, gut-wrenching betrayal, and a revenge plot that is so epic it spans generations.
And really, the whole stormy, chaotic story boils down to one pretty terrifying question. Can a love that's so deep it feels like it's part of your soul actually curdle and turn into a weapon, a tool for pure, calculated hatred? Well, let's dive into this dark and unforgettable world and find out.
So, here's the thing. Our story, it doesn't actually start at the beginning. Nope. We're thrown right into the middle of a mystery, with a stranger stumbling into this world of ghosts and long-buried secrets.
We see this whole thing through the eyes of a guy named Mr. Lockwood. He's new to the area, renting a place from this dark, brooding landlord, Heathcliff. And when he visits his landlord's home, Wuthering Heights, the vibe is just so bizarre and tense that he's got to know more. So he asks the housekeeper, Nellie Dean, what is the deal with this family? And it's Nellie's voice that walks us through decades of absolute chaos.
Now, to understand this story, you need to know about the two settings, which are basically two different worlds. First, you've got Wuthering Heights. It's the home of the Earnshaw family. It's wild, rugged, and stormy, just like the people inside. Then, you have Thrushcross Grange. It's the total opposite. Refined, elegant, home of the wealthy Lintons. It's all about social class and proper behavior. These two worlds, they're on a collision course.
So Nellie takes us way back to the very beginning, where one single act of kindness ends up planting the seeds for decades of misery. Kinda ironic, right? Okay, let's meet the key players. We've got Mr. Earnshaw, the man of the house. He has two kids, a son named Hindley and a daughter, Catherine. But one day, Mr. Earnshaw comes home from a trip with this dirty, ragged orphan boy he found. He names him Heathcliff and decides to raise him as one of his own. And, well, not everyone is thrilled about the new family member.
From day one, Hindley absolutely despises Heathcliff. He sees him as this intruder who's stealing his dad's love. But Catherine and Heathcliff, they're inseparable. Two wild kids who are basically two halves of the same soul. But then Mr. Earnshaw dies, Hindley takes over, and he immediately gets his revenge, turning Heathcliff into a common farmhand.
And this is the moment the entire story just pivots. See, Catherine gets a taste of the refined life with the Lintons, and it's tempting. One night, she's talking to Nellie, and she says that marrying Heathcliff now would be a step down for her, that it would degrade her. Here's the tragic part. Heathcliff is hiding nearby, and he hears only that one soul-crushing sentence.
He doesn't stick around to hear her say that he is more herself than she is, that her love for him is eternal. Nope. All he hears is rejection. So feeling completely betrayed, he just vanishes. And with Heathcliff gone, Catherine's choice is made. She marries the wealthy Edgar Linton and becomes the mistress of Thrushcross Grange, trying to leave her wild heart behind.
But you didn't think Heathcliff was gone for good, did you? 3 years later, he comes back. And the story takes a sharp turn from tragic love into a cold, terrifying quest for revenge.
And let me tell you, the man who comes back is not the boy who left. He's rich now, he's educated, he's polished, but underneath all that, there's a fire burning. And he has one single, all-consuming goal: to destroy every single person he feels has wronged him.
And this isn't some impulsive rage. Oh no, it is a cold, calculated, step-by-step master plan. First, he goes after Hindley, using his drinking and gambling problems to take ownership of Wuthering Heights itself. Then, he marries Edgar Linton's sweet, innocent sister Isabella, not for love, but to get his hands on her money and to torture her brother. But his final, most twisted goal, to take control of their children.
So you can imagine Catherine, stuck in the middle of this. She's torn between her gentle husband Edgar and the fierce love of her life, Heathcliff. The tension just keeps building until it explodes in a huge fight between the two men. The stress is too much for Catherine, and it breaks her, sending her into a feverish delirium she never really comes back from.
And from here, everything just unravels, and it happens fast. Heathcliff twists the knife by running off with Isabella. He forces one last, brutal, passionate meeting with Catherine just before she dies, only hours after giving birth to a daughter. When she's gone, Heathcliff is completely shattered. He literally runs outside and howls, begging Catherine's ghost to haunt him for the rest of his life.
You might think Catherine's death would be the end of the story, but for Heathcliff, his revenge isn't over. It now extends to the next generation, the innocent children of his enemies.
So let's meet the kids caught in the crossfire. There's young Cathy, Catherine's daughter. There's Linton, Heathcliff's own sickly, weak son. And then there's Hareton, Hindley's son. And in a really twisted move, Heathcliff has raised Hareton to be an uneducated, crude servant, a living echo of how Heathcliff himself was treated.
Okay, so what's Heathcliff's final move? His endgame? It's all about owning everything. He manipulates and actually kidnaps young Cathy, forcing her to marry his dying son, Linton. It's a horrible, cruel act, but it has one purpose: to legally ensure that when Cathy's father, Edgar, dies, Thrushcross Grange will become his property.
And it works. His plan succeeds. Edgar dies, his own son Linton dies, and just like that, Heathcliff is the master of everything. He owns both Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange. He's won. He's crushed the legacies of his enemies, but he's also completely and utterly alone, haunted by the ghosts of everyone he's destroyed.
But right here, in this landscape of total ruin and hate, something unexpected happens. A little glimmer of hope. See, while Catherine and Heathcliff's love was like a destructive hurricane, the next generation, they have a chance to finally break the curse.
At first, the proper, well-read Cathy can't stand the rough, illiterate Hareton. But slowly, she starts to see the good person hidden underneath. She teaches him how to read, and through her patience and his willingness to learn, a real, gentle love starts to grow between them. It's the kind of healing, redemptive love their parents could never have. Watching this new, healthy love bloom between Cathy and Hareton seems to just break Heathcliff. His thirst for revenge is finally gone. He starts seeing Catherine's ghost everywhere he looks. His obsession completely takes over. He stops eating, just wasting away, desperate to finally be reunited with her. He's eventually buried right next to her, their storm finally over.
And so, our story ends. The cycle of hate is finally broken, but we're left with the ghost of Heathcliff and one massive, haunting question. So what do you think? Was he a monster, born evil? Or was he a tragic victim? A boy who was twisted into a villain by cruelty, by social class, and by a love so powerful it literally destroyed him. The book never gives you an easy answer, and honestly, that's what makes Wuthering Heights so brilliant.